I still can't believe what I saw that woman do to her own daughter-in-law, and I had a front row seat to the whole mess. My name's Teresa, and I work as a court clerk here in Atlanta. I've seen everything come through these doors: custody battles, property disputes, people fighting over the dumbest things. But what I witnessed between Jasmine Brooks and her mother-in-law, Diane Mitchell,
That was something else entirely. That was the kind of drama that makes you question if some people even have a conscience. I first met Jasmine about 8 months ago when she came in to file some paperwork for a restraining order. She was this petite woman, maybe 5'3", with her hair pulled back in a neat bun, and these tired eyes that told you she'd been through it. Professional looking, spoke softly, the kind of person who apologizes when you bump into them. She had this nervous energy about her, kept fidgeting with her wedding ring while she filled out the forms. "You okay, honey?" I asked her. Because part of my job is reading people, and this woman looked like she was barely holding it together. She looked up at me with these big brown eyes that were just swimming with tears she was trying not to let fall. "I just need to protect myself," she said, "and my son." Now, I'm not supposed to get involved in people's business, but something about her made me want to help. "You're in the right place," I told her. "Fill out everything as detailed as you can. The judge needs to know exactly what happened." Over the next few weeks, I saw Jasmine a few more times as her case moved through the system. Bits and pieces of her story came out, not from her directly, because she was private like that, but from the court documents I processed. Her husband, Marcus, had been deployed overseas with the Army for 6 months. She'd been living in their house in Buckhead, taking care of their 3-year-old son, Caleb, working her job as a nurse at Grady Memorial. Normal life stuff. But here's where it gets messy. Jasmine's mother-in-law, Diane, had a key to their house. Marcus had given it to her before he left, just in case Jasmine needed help with anything. You know, emergency situations. What Marcus didn't know, what nobody knew at first, was that Diane had decided this key gave her unlimited access to their home, their business, and their entire lives. The first incident report I saw was from about 4 months into Marcus's deployment. Jasmine had come home from a 12-hour shift at the hospital to find Diane in her kitchen, cooking dinner. Now, on the surface, that might sound nice, right? Mother-in-law helping out. Except Diane had thrown out all the food Jasmine had meal prepped for the week, replaced it with her own groceries, and rearranged the entire kitchen. "She told me I was feeding her grandson garbage," Jasmine told the police officer, who'd come to document the incident. I read this in the report. She said Marcus would be ashamed of how I was running his household. The officer had noted it as a domestic dispute and suggested Jasmine change her locks. Simple solution. But here's the thing about people like Jasmine. Good people, kind people. They don't want to cause family drama. They want to keep the peace. So she didn't change the locks. She talked to Marcus over a video call, and he probably said something like, "Mom's just trying to help, babe. You know how she is." I'm guessing here, but I've seen this pattern 1,000 times. The incidents escalated. I saw another report 2 weeks later. Jasmine had installed a Ring camera by her front door after some of her jewelry went missing. The footage showed Diane letting herself in at 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, going straight to the master bedroom, and leaving 20 minutes later with a shopping bag full of items. When Jasmine confronted her, Diane said, and this was in the police report, word for word, "Those earrings were too expensive for a nurse's salary anyway. Marcus must have bought them for you, which means they're technically Mitchell family property. I'm keeping them safe." The audacity. I remember reading that and just shaking my head. But Jasmine still didn't press charges. She still didn't change the locks. She was worried about what Marcus would think, worried about breaking up his family while he was overseas and couldn't defend himself or his mother. She was trying to be the bigger person. That's when Jasmine came up with the idea to test her husband. She told Marcus she was going on a girls' trip to Miami for a long weekend, Thursday through Sunday. She needed a break, she told him. The stress of single parenting while he was deployed was getting to her. She'd arranged for her sister to watch Caleb. Everything was set up. Marcus was supportive, told her she deserved it, told her to have fun and relax. But Jasmine never went to Miami. Instead, she stayed with her sister across town and set up cameras inside her house. Real cameras, not just the Ring doorbell. She put one in the living room, one in the kitchen, one in the master bedroom. She wanted to see what would happen when Diane thought she was gone. What those cameras caught was beyond anything Jasmine expected. Thursday evening, around 6 p.m., Diane let herself in. Jasmine watched it all on her phone from her sister's couch. Diane walked through that house like she owned it, turning on all the lights, opening cabinets, going through drawers. She made herself comfortable on Jasmine's sofa, put her feet up on the coffee table, and turned on the TV. "She's just checking on the house," Jasmine's sister Nicole said, trying to be optimistic. "Maybe she's making sure everything's okay." But then Friday happened. Diane showed up at 9 a.m. with 2 large suitcases and a man Jasmine had never seen before. They brought the luggage upstairs to the master bedroom, Marcus and Jasmine's bedroom, and started unpacking. I watched the footage later when it was entered as evidence, and let me tell you, my jaw was on the floor. This woman had moved a whole man into her son's house while his wife was supposedly out of town. The disrespect was astronomical. Jasmine called me that Friday afternoon, frantic. "Teresa, I need to know my rights. What can I do?" "Whose name is on the house deed?" I asked her. "Both of ours, mine and Marcus's." "Then she's trespassing. You can call the police right now and have her removed." But Jasmine wanted more than that. She wanted proof. She wanted witnesses. She wanted this to be so clear that Marcus couldn't deny what his mother was capable of. So she waited. She watched those cameras all weekend, documenting everything. Diane and this man. His name was Robert, we found out later. Living in that house like it was theirs. Sleeping in Marcus and Jasmine's bed. Cooking in their kitchen. Saturday night, Diane even threw a dinner party, inviting 3 of her friends over. One of the friends asked, "What if Jasmine comes back early?" Diane laughed. I heard her laugh on that recording. "Marcus will be home in 2 months, and by then, I'll have convinced him that Jasmine's not fit to be a Mitchell. That girl doesn't know how to run a proper household. Robert and I are thinking of moving in here permanently once Marcus realizes what a mistake he made marrying her." My blood was boiling just processing that evidence. Sunday afternoon, Jasmine made her move. She called the police, explained the situation, showed them the footage, and asked them to meet her at her house at exactly 4 p.m. Then she called Nicole. "Come with me. I need a witness who's on my side." At 3:55 p.m., Jasmine pulled into her own driveway. The police were already there, 2 officers waiting in their patrol car. She used her key to open her front door, and the officers followed her inside. Diane was in the kitchen making Sunday dinner. Robert was in the living room watching football. The look on Diane's face when she turned around and saw Jasmine standing there with 2 police officers. I saw the body cam footage later, and it was priceless. Pure shock, then immediate anger. "What are you doing here?" Diane demanded, like Jasmine was the one who didn't belong. "I live here," Jasmine said, and her voice was steady, stronger than I'd ever heard it. "The question is, what are you doing here, and who is he?" Robert stood up, looking confused and uncomfortable. "Diane, you said this was your house." "It is my house," Diane said. "My son's house." "Your son's house that he shares with his wife," one of the officers corrected her. "Ma'am, do you have permission to be here?" "I have a key," Diane said, holding it up like it was a golden ticket. "A key doesn't equal permission to move in," the officer said. "Mrs. Brooks, do you want these individuals removed from your property?" Jasmine looked at Diane, and I wish I could have seen her face in that moment. "Yes. I want them both out, now." Diane's face turned red. "You can't do this. Marcus gave me that key. This is his house, too. And he gave it to you for emergencies," Jasmine said. "Not for you to move your boyfriend in and play house while I'm gone." "Boyfriend?" Diane scoffed. "Robert is my fiancé. We're getting married next month." "Congratulations," Jasmine said flatly. "You can celebrate in your own home. Officers, I want her key back, and I want them both out of my house immediately." That's when Diane lost it completely. Started screaming about how ungrateful Jasmine was, how she'd never been good enough for Marcus, how she was an awful mother and a terrible wife. The officers had to physically escort her out while she was yelling threats over her shoulder. "You're going to regret this. When Marcus finds out what you did, he's going to leave you. You're nothing without my son. Nothing." Robert grabbed their suitcases and practically ran out of there, looking absolutely humiliated. Nicole stood in the doorway, recording the whole thing on her phone, making sure they had evidence of everything. After they left, Jasmine changed all the locks. Then she sat down on her couch and cried for an hour straight. Nicole called me later that night to check in, and she said Jasmine just kept saying, "I can't believe she did this. I can't believe she really did this." But here's where the story takes another turn. Jasmine called Marcus that night on their video chat, told him everything, showed him the footage from the cameras, walked him through every single thing his mother had done. And Marcus didn't believe her. "Mom wouldn't do that," he kept saying. "You must have misunderstood. Maybe she was just checking on the house, and Robert was helping her with something. Marcus, they moved into our bedroom. They slept in our bed." "You're being dramatic, Jazz. You've always been sensitive about my mom." That conversation ended with Jasmine in tears, and Marcus frustrated, and nothing resolved. He called his mother the next day, and Diane told him a completely different story. Said that Jasmine had given her permission to stay at the house. Said that Jasmine had come home early, saw Robert there, got jealous for some reason, and made up this elaborate lie about them moving in. Said Jasmine had always been trying to turn Marcus against his family, and Marcus, being deployed and stressed, and only hearing his mother's voice in his ear, started to believe her version of events. The next time I saw Jasmine at the courthouse, she was filing for a restraining order against Diane and also starting divorce proceedings against Marcus. Her face was different, harder. The softness was gone. "He chose her," she told me, while I processed her paperwork. "After everything I showed him, all the evidence, he still chose to believe his mother over me." "I'm sorry, honey," I said, and I meant it. "Don't be," she said. "I'm done protecting people who won't protect me." The restraining order hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Both Diane and Jasmine would be there. Marcus would attend via video call from his base overseas. I made sure I was the clerk assigned to that courtroom because I needed to see how this played out. The morning of the hearing, I got to the courthouse early and set everything up. Judge Patterson was presiding. She's this no-nonsense black woman in her 60s who does not tolerate foolishness in her courtroom. If you've got a case in front of Judge Patterson, you better come correct with facts and evidence, or she'll tear you apart. Jasmine arrived with Nicole and her lawyer, a sharp woman named Mrs. Chen, who specialized in family law. They sat on one side of the courtroom, folders full of evidence stacked neatly on their table. Jasmine was wearing a navy blue dress, her hair down, looking professional and put together. You wouldn't know she was falling apart on the inside. Diane showed up 15 minutes late with her own lawyer, some guy in an expensive suit who looked like he thought this was going to be easy. Diane was dressed to the nines, designer handbag, heels, full makeup. She walked into that courtroom like she was walking onto a stage, ready to perform. Judge Patterson called the court to order, and we got Marcus on the video call. He was in his uniform, looking tired and uncomfortable. I felt bad for him in a way. He was stuck in the middle of a situation he couldn't fully see or understand from thousands of miles away. "Let me be clear about what we're here for today," Judge Patterson said. "Mrs. Brooks is seeking a restraining order against Mrs. Mitchell. Mrs. Brooks, your lawyer may proceed." Mrs. Chen stood up and laid out the timeline of events. The unauthorized entries into the home. The stolen jewelry. The moved-in boyfriend. She presented the Ring camera footage, the interior camera footage, the police reports, witness statements from Nicole, everything. It was airtight. I watched Diane's face the whole time. She sat there with this smug little smile, like none of this was going to stick to her. When Mrs. Chen finished, Judge Patterson turned to Diane's lawyer. "Counselor, your response?" Diane's lawyer stood up and started talking about how this was all a misunderstanding, how Diane had been given a key by her son for family access, how she was just trying to help her daughter-in-law during a stressful time, how Jasmine had blown everything out of proportion because she had postpartum issues and was emotionally unstable. I saw Jasmine's jaw clench at that. Then Diane's lawyer made his big mistake. He said, "Your Honor, my client has text messages from her son Marcus confirming that she was welcome in the home at any time." "Let me see those text messages," Judge Patterson said. There was fumbling, papers shuffling. Diane whispered something to her lawyer. He whispered back. More fumbling. "Counselor, do you have these text messages or not?" We're having trouble locating them at this moment. Your Honor?" Judge Patterson leaned back in her chair. "So you made a claim in my courtroom that you can't back up with evidence? We'll submit them later this afternoon. That's not how this works." Judge Patterson looked at the video screen where Marcus was watching. "Captain Brooks, did you give your mother permission to move a man into your home while your wife was away?" Marcus looked uncomfortable. "No, Your Honor, I gave her a key for emergencies." "Did you define what constitutes an emergency?" "No, ma'am." "So when Mrs. Mitchell interpreted emergency to mean I can do whatever I want, that was a failure of communication on your part?" I guess so, Your Honor." Judge Patterson turned to Diane. "Mrs. Mitchell, stand up, please." Diane stood, still wearing that smug smile. "Did you move a man into your son's home without permission from either your son or his wife?" "I was helping." "Yes or no, Mrs. Mitchell?" Diane's smile faltered. "Yes, but—" "Did you remove items from Mrs. Brooks' home without her permission?" "They were family heirlooms." "Yes or no?" "Yes." "Did you rearrange, discard, and replace food and household items that Mrs. Brooks had purchased?" "She wasn't feeding my grandson properly." "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm going to ask you one more time. Answer yes or no, or I'll hold you in contempt." Diane's face turned red. "Yes." Judge Patterson looked at her for a long moment. "Mrs. Mitchell, I've been doing this job for 23 years. I've seen every kind of family dysfunction you can imagine. But what I'm seeing here is a woman who believes that because her son married someone, she now has ownership over that person's life, home, and choices. That's not help. That's control. And it's unacceptable." Diane opened her mouth to argue, but her lawyer grabbed her arm. "The restraining order is granted," Judge Patterson said. "Mrs. Mitchell, you are to have no contact with Mrs. Brooks or her minor child. You are not to come within 500 feet of her residence or place of work. You are to return any and all items you have removed from her home within 72 hours or face criminal charges for theft. Do you understand?" "This is ridiculous," Diane said. "Marcus, tell her—" "Captain Brooks," Judge Patterson cut her off. "Do you have anything to say?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. I could see him processing everything, watching his mother stand there defiant and angry, watching his wife sit there exhausted and hurt. Finally, he spoke. "No, Your Honor, I think the restraining order is appropriate." Diane's face went white. "Marcus!" "Mom, stop. Just stop." And that's when Diane finally broke. Started crying, saying she was only trying to protect him, that Jasmine was turning him against his family, that she'd sacrificed everything for him, and this was how he repaid her. It was ugly and manipulative and desperate. Judge Patterson had seen enough. "We're adjourned. Mrs. Mitchell, leave this courtroom now, or I'll have the bailiff escort you out." Diane grabbed her purse and stormed out, her lawyer scrambling to follow her. The courtroom was silent, except for the sound of her heels clicking on the floor. After she left, Jasmine just sat there. Nicole put an arm around her shoulders. Mrs. Chen packed up their evidence, and Marcus, still on that video screen, said quietly, "Jazz, I'm sorry. I should have believed you." Jasmine looked at the screen. "Yeah, you should have." Can we talk about this? About us? I don't know, Marcus. I really don't know. That was 2 months ago. I've seen Jasmine a few times since then at the courthouse for her divorce proceedings. She and Marcus are in counseling, trying to figure out if their marriage can survive what his mother did and what he didn't do. Some days she seems hopeful, other days she seems done. Diane violated the restraining order once, showed up at Jasmine's work trying to see her grandson. She got arrested, spent a night in jail, and now has a criminal record. Last I heard, Robert broke off their engagement because he didn't sign up for all this drama. Marcus came home from deployment last month. I don't know if he moved back in with Jasmine or if they're still separated. That's not my business, and I don't ask. But I'll tell you what I do know. I know that Jasmine walks taller now. She doesn't apologize for taking up space anymore. She set a boundary, enforced it, and didn't back down even when it cost her everything she thought she wanted. And Diane? She lost it all. Lost access to her grandson. Lost her son's trust. Lost her relationship. All because she couldn't respect that her son's wife was a whole entire person with her own home, her own rules, and her own damn life. Sometimes karma doesn't come back around in some big dramatic moment. Sometimes it's just the slow realization that the person you've been trying to control has finally walked away, and there's nothing you can do to get them back. I see a lot of cases come through this courthouse, but this one stuck with me, because it's a reminder that family doesn't give you the right to bulldoze boundaries. Love doesn't mean letting people treat you however they want, just to keep the peace. And sometimes the hardest thing you'll ever do is look at someone you're supposed to love and say, "No more." Jasmine did that. And yeah, it cost her. But what she gained was something Diane could never take away: her self-respect, her peace, and the knowledge that she deserved better. I don't know how their story ends. Maybe Jasmine and Marcus work it out. Maybe they don't. But I do know that Jasmine's not going to spend the rest of her life being disrespected in her own home by someone who's supposed to be family. And honestly, that's the biggest win of all. The thing is, the story didn't just end with that restraining order. I wish I could tell you it did, because that would have been cleaner. But messy people don't just disappear because a judge tells them to. They find ways to keep inserting themselves into your life, keep trying to prove they were right all along. About 2 weeks after the hearing, Jasmine came back to the courthouse to file additional documentation. I was at my desk when I saw her walk in, and something about her energy was different. She wasn't crying. She wasn't nervous. She was angry. "Teresa, I need to file a violation report," she said, sliding a folder across my desk. I opened it up and found printed screenshots of text messages, emails, and Facebook messages, all from Diane, all sent to Jasmine's friends, her coworkers, even her supervisor at the hospital. "She's been messaging everyone I know," Jasmine said, "telling them I'm an unfit mother, that I'm keeping her grandson away from her for no reason, that I'm mentally unstable and manipulating Marcus." I read through some of the messages. One sent to Jasmine's nursing supervisor said, "I'm deeply concerned about Jasmine Brooks' mental state. She has been having paranoid delusions about me and has made false accusations that resulted in a frivolous restraining order. I worry about her ability to care for patients in her current condition. As a concerned family member, I felt you should know." "Jesus," I muttered. "She sent one to my church," Jasmine continued, "to the women's ministry leader, told them I was having a breakdown and needed intervention. She even messaged Marcus's commanding officer, trying to get him to convince Marcus to divorce me. You've documented all of this?" "Every single message. I've got witnesses, too. My supervisor forwarded me the email and told me she didn't believe a word of it, but she had to put it in my file. Do you know how humiliating that is? To have your mental stability questioned at your job because your mother-in-law is on a vendetta?" I started processing the violation report. Judge Patterson is going to lose her mind when she sees this. "Good," Jasmine said. "I want Diane to face real consequences. The restraining order clearly didn't teach her anything." The violation hearing was set for the following week. This time, Diane showed up with a different lawyer, a younger guy who looked fresh out of law school and way out of his depth. Marcus wasn't on video call this time. He'd taken emergency leave and flown home 2 days earlier. He sat in the courtroom next to Jasmine, in his uniform, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Diane walked in, saw Marcus sitting next to Jasmine, and you could see her whole face change. She'd probably thought he was still on her side, thought he'd come around once he got home and heard her version of events in person. "All rise," the bailiff called out, and Judge Patterson entered. She looked at the case file, looked at Diane, and I swear I saw her jaw tighten. "Mrs. Mitchell, we're back here again. Why am I not surprised?" Diane's lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, my client would like to explain." "Sit down, counselor. I'll let you know when I want to hear from you." Judge Patterson turned to Jasmine's lawyer. "Mrs. Chen, walk me through the violations." Mrs. Chen presented the evidence systematically. Every text message, every email, every Facebook message. She had testimonies from Jasmine's supervisor, from church members, from friends who'd been contacted. She'd even gotten a statement from Marcus's commanding officer about the inappropriate contact. "Your Honor, Mrs. Mitchell has engaged in a calculated harassment campaign designed to damage Mrs. Brooks's reputation, her employment, and her personal relationships," Mrs. Chen said. "This is a clear violation of the restraining order, which explicitly prohibited any form of contact, direct or indirect." Judge Patterson looked at the messages on the screen in front of her. She read them slowly, thoroughly. The courtroom was dead silent. Finally, she looked up at Diane. "Mrs. Mitchell, stand up." Diane stood. Her new lawyer looked terrified. "In my order, I was very clear. No contact. Not with Mrs. Brooks, not with her child, not with anyone on her behalf, or about her. Did you understand that order when I gave it to you?" "Yes. But, Your Honor, I was just trying to help." "Help?" Judge Patterson's voice was sharp. "You contacted this woman's employer and tried to get her fired. You contacted her church and tried to get her ostracized from her community. You contacted military personnel and attempted to interfere with her husband's career. In what universe is that helping?" "I'm worried about my grandson," Diane said, and her voice broke. "She won't let me see him. I just want to see my grandson." "You lost that privilege when you moved a stranger into their home without permission," Judge Patterson said. "You lost it when you stole from them. You lost it when you violated a court order, and now you're losing even more." She looked at the bailiff. "Mrs. Mitchell, you're being held in contempt of court. Bailiff, take her into custody." Diane's face went white. "What? No, you can't." "I absolutely can. You were given a clear order. You violated it extensively and deliberately. 30 days in county jail." "30 days?" Diane's lawyer jumped up. "Your Honor, that's excessive." "Is it?" Judge Patterson looked at him. "Your client engaged in a systematic harassment campaign against a healthcare worker, attempting to damage her professionally and personally. She showed no remorse and no intention of stopping. 30 days is generous. Sit down, counselor." The bailiff moved toward Diane, and that's when she really lost it. Started screaming, crying, calling Marcus's name. "Marcus! Marcus, don't let them do this to me. I'm your mother. Tell them. Tell the judge I was just trying to protect you." Marcus stood up, and for a second, I thought he might actually intervene. Diane's face lit up with hope, but then he said, "Mom, you did this to yourself," and he sat back down next to Jasmine. I watched Diane's face crumple. The bailiff put handcuffs on her while she sobbed, and they led her out of the courtroom. Her lawyer gathered his things and left without saying another word. After the courtroom cleared, I saw Marcus and Jasmine standing in the hallway. They weren't touching, weren't standing particularly close, but they were talking quietly. "I can't believe she actually went to jail," I heard Jasmine say. "She earned it," Marcus replied. His voice was flat, exhausted. "I talked to her yesterday when I got home. Tried to explain why what she did was wrong. She wouldn't hear it. Kept saying you were the problem, that you'd brainwashed me, that I needed to be a man and put you in your place." Jasmine winced. She actually said that? Word for word. Then she told me if I didn't divorce you and kick you out of the house, she'd make sure everyone knew what kind of wife you really were. He rubbed his face. That's when I knew. There's no getting through to her. She's never going to change. So what does that mean for us? Jasmine asked quietly. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, Jas. I want to fix this. I want to fix us. But I don't know if I can. I walked past them then, giving them privacy, but I couldn't help thinking about how sad the whole situation was. A marriage hanging by a thread because a mother couldn't let go of her son. A family destroyed because one person refused to respect boundaries. Over the next few weeks, I heard updates through the courthouse grapevine. Diane served her full 30 days, no early release for good behavior, because apparently she spent the entire time telling anyone who'd listen that she was being persecuted. When she got out, she moved in with her sister in South Carolina. Apparently, even Robert didn't want anything to do with her after watching her get hauled off to jail. Marcus and Jasmine started going to marriage counseling twice a week. Nicole told me. She came in to file some paperwork for her own business, and we got to talking. She said the counseling was rough. Marcus was having to confront the fact that he'd enabled his mother's behavior for years, always making excuses for her, always asking Jasmine to be the bigger person instead of setting firm boundaries himself. He's struggling with the guilt, Nicole said, realizing that if he'd just backed Jasmine up from the beginning, none of this would have escalated the way it did. Is Jasmine doing okay? I asked. Nicole sighed. Some days yes, some days no. She loves Marcus. That's the hard part. If she didn't love him, she could just walk away. But she loves him and she's hurt by him, and those two things are just sitting inside her fighting with each other. About 3 months after Diane went to jail, I saw Marcus and Jasmine at the courthouse again. This time, they were there to withdraw the divorce petition. I processed the paperwork, trying not to smile too big. Y'all working things out? Jasmine nodded. We're trying. It's not perfect. We've still got a lot to work through, but we decided our marriage is worth fighting for. Marcus put his hand on the small of her back. A small gesture, but intimate. Familiar. I'm done choosing my mother over my wife, he said. I told Jasmine that if Mom ever tries to contact us again, I'll be the one to handle it. I'll be the one to say no. She shouldn't have to be the bad guy. That's growth right there, I said, and I meant it. They left the courthouse holding hands, and I felt genuinely happy for them. But I also knew their story wasn't unique. I see variations of it all the time. Overbearing in-laws who can't let go, spouses who won't stand up to their families, marriages that crumble under the weight of other people's dysfunction. The last I heard, Diane tried to send a letter to Marcus around the holidays. He sent it back unopened. She tried to send gifts for Caleb's 4th birthday. Marcus donated them to charity. She's apparently telling everyone in her family that Marcus has cut her off for no reason, that Jasmine poisoned him against her, that she's the victim in all of this. Some people never learn. Some people are so committed to their version of reality that they'll burn down every relationship they have rather than admit they were wrong. But here's what I've learned from watching all of this unfold from my clerk's desk. Boundaries are not mean. Protecting your peace is not selfish. And if someone can't respect the basic ground rules of how to treat you in your own home, your own life, your own marriage, they don't deserve access to any of it. Jasmine figured that out. It cost her months of stress, almost cost her her marriage, and forced her to become someone harder than she wanted to be. But she survived it. She set the boundary, she enforced it, and she didn't back down even when it got ugly. Now, I'm not saying everything's perfect for them. Marriage counseling is ongoing. Marcus is working through his guilt and learning how to be a better partner. Jasmine's working through her trust issues and learning how to open back up to him after feeling so betrayed. They've got a long road ahead, but they're walking it together now. And Diane? She's in South Carolina, alone, still convinced she did nothing wrong. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. Sometimes karma is just you being forced to live with the consequences of your own actions. And sometimes the best revenge is just living well and refusing to let toxic people steal your peace. I've been working at this courthouse for 15 years. I've seen thousands of cases, thousands of families torn apart by betrayal and manipulation and control. Most of them don't end this cleanly. Most of them just sort of fade out. People stop coming to court, stop fighting, and you never know what happened. But Jasmine and Marcus, they fought for their marriage. They set boundaries with family members who didn't respect them. They chose each other. And honestly, in a world where it's easier to just walk away, where people ghost each other over the smallest inconvenience, where family drama can tear apart even the strongest relationships, that's pretty damn remarkable. I don't know what their future holds. Maybe they'll make it. Maybe in 5 years they'll be back here filing for divorce again. Life's unpredictable like that. But I do know this. Jasmine walked out of this courthouse standing taller, speaking louder, and taking up more space than when she first walked in 8 months ago. She stopped apologizing for existing. She stopped making herself smaller to accommodate people who didn't value her. And that, right there, is the real win. Not the restraining order, not Diane going to jail, not even saving her marriage. The real win was Jasmine learning that she deserved better and refusing to accept anything less. So yeah, that's the story. That's what I saw happen from my front row seat at the courthouse. A daughter-in-law who got tested, a mother-in-law who lost everything, and a marriage that almost didn't survive, but might just make it after all. And the next time someone tells you that family is everything and you should always forgive and forget and keep the peace, remember Jasmine. Remember that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to say no, to set a boundary, to walk away from people who refuse to treat you with basic respect and dignity. Because at the end of the day, you've got to live with yourself. You've got to look at yourself in the mirror and know that you stood up for what was right, even when it was hard, even when it cost you something, even when people called you cruel or unforgiving or dramatic. Jasmine did that, and she's better for it. That's all I've got for you today. If you made it this far, drop a comment and let me know. Would you have had the courage to set up those cameras and catch your mother-in-law in the act? Or would you have just changed the locks and hoped for the best? I'm curious to know what you would have done differently. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because trust me, I've got plenty more stories where this one came from. The courthouse never runs out of drama, and I'll be here to tell you all about it. Until next time, protect your peace, set your boundaries, and remember, family doesn't get a free pass to disrespect you in your own home.